Okay, then I was the caterpillar.
Happy birthday, Layne. And just as we celebrate you every year on your birthday, we celebrate you every day actually, but we come together on this special occasion to really honor you and the fire that you were that burned through our lives and completely transformed us all. You changed us all. Every one of us who have come across you, whether we met you in person or we've just picked up your book, or we hear the beat of the frame drum, we are never the same. And this year, in celebration of you, in this huge year, you know, it wasn't all that long ago that you were posthumously inducted into the Hall of Fame by the Percussive Arts Society, how they honored you in this huge way. And you are so lit up right now, and all of us who knew you and were blessed by you are also on this really wild ride and bringing your teachings as we alchemize them with our own into the world in bigger and more wondrous ways. And today, as I celebrate you, did you hear the frog? Tonight, I'd like to read an excerpt from the introduction of your book, because I think it really speaks to these times. You know, everybody, Layne wrote this book in 1997, and she had been compiling the images of the ancient frame drummers and creating her archive of these incredible figurines and stone carvings from thousands of years ago. She had been collecting them for years before that. So when this book came out in 97, what she writes in the introduction, I feel, is still pertinent today. So, the introduction. Page 1. Because we begin again, to begin at the beginning, to end again, to end at the beginning. We begin at the beginning, to end, to begin at the ending. We begin again, to begin at the beginning, to end again, to end at the beginning. We begin at the beginning, to end, to begin at the ending. Sorry, Layne Redmond comes through me all the time. She always has. In modern times, drummers have been almost exclusively men, but more and more women are rediscovering their ancient birthright. Every year there are more professional women percussionists, which is true, still true. And yet at the same time, many women are returning to the drum, not for a profession, but to recover an important spiritual connection to health and to one another that has been lost but not forgotten. A connection long buried but somehow instantly familiar. When the Drummers Were Women is the story of a buried and forgotten aspect of women's spiritual heritage. It traces the use of the frame drum as a ritual instrument from the sacred caves of old Europe through the mystery cults of Rome. It demonstrates that banning women's drumming from religious life was central to the disempowerment of women in Western culture. Finally, it shows how drumming is again becoming a tool for individual and cultural healing and transformation. And then I'll skip to the last paragraph of the introduction on page 3. I've been teaching and performing with the frame drum for many years now. You can see how my book is falling apart. You see how many post-it notes are in this thing? This is the original edition, by the way. I'm just gonna, before I finish, before I even get to the end, before I even get to the ending of the end, to begin again, to begin at the ending. So this is the original edition. It's really not that different from the book that you might have if you have the second printing. It's just a slightly different cover. I think they've changed some of the testimonials, and the paper is kind of different. It doesn't have this beautiful deckled edge, but they've managed to keep the price down. And hey, it came out again in a second edition. I only wish that a true second edition, I know that Layne was working on that. I wish that she had had a chance for that to come out, because so much of her work had evolved. Her work was constantly evolving. What an evolutionary artist she was, and still is. Her work continues to evolve through us, you know. Anyway, so that last paragraph reads, I've been teaching and performing with the frame drum for many years now, and I'm continually amazed by its enthusiastic reception. I am too, actually. I love it. I love you all for that. Its voice inspires instant communion with everyone who hears it. I am convinced that the new drumming phenomenon answers a deep cultural need to reestablish our rhythmic links with nature and with one another. And it's so true. We are returning to rhythm. We're returning to the natural cycles. We're returning to the frame drum, to Layne Redmond's teachings, to the legacy that lives on through all of us. And I just feel so blessed to have had her as my teacher, as my mentor, as my muse, and to have had the opportunity to alchemize her work into my own that was really steeped in the works of so many outstanding teachers and artists. I was truly one of those drum students in the 90s and early 2000s who just went to every drum conference, every teacher training, every class and workshop, and then continued to just mix it all up and bring it to my own community. It was my day job and my night job. It's all I did. I don't know anyone else who was crazy enough to try to take what is typically something that people do on the side and make it their life's work. And Layne inspired me to do that, from who she was as a person and as an artist and as a teacher. And she said to me when I opened my center in Mount Vernon, Maine in 1995, in our barn, our drum and dance workshop space that was so beautifully, lovingly created for me by my husband, Jeff Hanna. And when we opened it, Layne sent a note that I cherish to this day. And she basically said, dreams are a tremendous amount of work, and yet the only work really worth pursuing. And it's so true. So I have followed my passion, and being that I was so inspired by her work with the Mob of Angels and her tambourine processions, you know, all she taught in the beginning was the tambourine. That's all she was teaching. She played the frame drum as well, but she was teaching the tambourine. So my first When the Drummers Were Women workshop, the workshops were named before the book came out, That was in 1993, and it was on the Tambourine. And I came home from that weekend, and I knew what I was setting out to do. A handful of years later, I began teaching women rhythm and ritual, tambourine workshops, and then the rest is history. We became a weekly gathering called Moonrise. We didn't have that name at first. It's what came to me after a little while, and then we were Moonrise Daughters of an Ancient Pulse, and we brought our tambourine processions into the public and into private settings in 2000 and 2001, and it was a real highlight of my life, and I'd like to thank for all of the women who were part of Moonrise. And then Moonrise came with me in my heart to Florida, and I planted the seed here in Southwest Florida, and we had small groups of Moonrise drummers where we had a few wonderful opportunities to share the processions. And now I've created the Tambourine Path, planting seeds around the country and soon around the world so that women can pick up the tambourines and create wonderful, beautiful, meditative, lively, magical women's tambourine processions in a ceremonial setting as Layne taught us, bringing it to their own communities for celebration and ceremony. So thank you, Layne. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for writing this book. Thank you for your teachings. Thank you for, as I read in this introduction, it is just as pertinent today as it was then that women are hearing the call of the ancient frame drum, and we're finding each other. I really think, I believe in my heart that Layne is just waving this magic wand and calling the hive together. We're finding each other. How many of you have I met just in the past year alone? Through our social media groups and through my workshops, and through my YouTube channel. How many women have just been flocking to one another for the frame drum, for the tambourine, for Layne's book? Finding teachers, amazing teachers, and being inspired by one another. We love it when newcomers join the group and say, hey there, I just found Layne's book, I don't know what to do next. Or when they say, hi, I've just bought my first frame drum and I'm just starting to find some YouTube videos, and now I'm finding some teachers online, and here's a little rhythm I learned today. And it's a basic, beautiful, simple, profound rhythm. So play your drum, keep showing up in the group. We support one another, we support you, and we all know that whenever we see a woman with a frame drum, which we never grow tired of, we are inspired. So when we see you, it inspires us. As a teacher and a player, I'm inspired by all of the amazing teachers and players who are far better than me to be able to support my colleagues, to be able to support the students who are up and coming and wanting to share in their own communities. That is a blessing and gives us all hope that Layne's legacy lives on. We are Layne's legacy. And may the torch of Layne's legacy live on through all of us. And as Layne said, blessed beats forever. So here's to you, Layne, and here's to all of us who carry this torch forward, and through our students and their students and their students. Just as Layne brought the frame drum to us thanks to her teachers and the teachers before them, and so on. This is our lineage. We are a procession of women frame drummers of all walks of life, of all traditions, and we are joining in a procession that serpentines through time and that lives on. So imagine that this procession is a line of women frame drummers over thousands and thousands of years. And once we have each picked up our frame drum, we step into this procession. We find our place in the lineage, and we march on with our frame drums in ritual and in reverie through time. And then the women who will come after us with their frame drums will be in the procession behind us. So this legacy will live on. Thank you, Layne. Thank you, everyone. Happy birthday, Layne. And so I'd like to leave you with a videotape from 2001 when Moonrise, Daughters of an Ancient Pulse, was drumming in procession with our tambourines at the Full Circle Summer Fair. And there was a band playing on the stage, and so we just fell into rhythm with them. And people who were there at the festival joined us in our procession, and then we circled up and spontaneously created a circle dance. Moonrise, Daughters of an Ancient Pulse, in celebration. Great girl. Yeah, keep it up. We're going this way. Circling around.
Get away from that big drum.